I know that there are examples, when a woman says something on a meeting, then they only listen when a man repeats what she said, or they talk over the woman, and these kind of experiences. Have you ever experienced any of these that you clearly recognized?
I would say no. I tend to be, well, I can be loud. I'm not generally intimidated by people talking over me, and maybe I need to check myself that I don't talk over people in some cases. But I did experience one thing I would say where I have had one instance where somebody was talking, I would say discrediting me. That wasn't happening in the meetings in front of me, so I couldn't really understand that for a while that was happening. I didn't even know it was happening until that this person was discrediting me on a continuous basis, both technically and personally. That was happening. I had to figure out how to handle that situation. I would say that was a tougher one for me to handle. And this also happens in personal life, by the way. And I have the good fortune or bad fortune. I have had difficult situation on handling this kind of discrediting both in personal and professional life. So I the way I chose to handle it is that initially, I mean, you first of all you get frustrated, right, when you hear stuff like this is happening, and you go, why? How could they do it? And the way I approached it is, first of all, okay, sit back and say, what are they doing? Just the behavior, and say, is there some truth to that criticism? Is there something I can learn from that experience? Meaning, obviously, I am doing something that's annoying them, right? Or doing something that is causing them to exhibit this behavior. Is there something I can do to fix on my end that will serve me well in life? So I did that in both instances. And at some point, it is you can fix yourself all you want, you still cannot win them. Meaning, don't go pursuing that you need to solve that problem, have them stop talking, discrediting you. That might never happen. You might have to at some point recognize that. And what I'm saying when I say discrediting is you see a pattern. It's not like one time thing, right? You see a pattern.
So it was a bit like a work competition thing, like.
Yeah, I couldn't tell because I cannot read their mind, right? So I really don't know. So I don't know if it is a work competition thing or it could be something that they just our working style didn't match. I have no idea, but sorted itself out in some ways. I would say at some point, I guess you have to also decide how it's affecting you. If that you have to channel that, you have to try to sit back and understand. It becomes a not a very productive environment. You're not working together as a team, right? At that point, you have these, the approach to work or approach to the style differences that are becoming more of a hindrance than um, working cooperatively together. So at that point, you have to kind of decide whether you want to um, pursue something different or not have overlap so that you can work productively.
So I assume that you were on the same team, or on the same project. And if I understand it correctly, you're saying that either you transitioned over to another team or project, or the person did.
No, it was so the thing is though I think discrediting it didn't really work for them. Um, and so they, after trying, I think they just decided that that path isn't working well for them, discrediting. Because if you are discrediting somebody, there has to be something solid behind discrediting that individual. If you are discrediting because of your personal dislike or some other factor, it won't be of it won't give you the results you're looking for out of the discrediting. So it just so happened, um, I think they realized discrediting wasn't working well. So they transitioned and I transitioned to another place. We both worked on larger teams that we didn't have any overlap with the work.
Did you get any support from your manager at the time when this was happening, or anyone else in the company?
I I did get support, I think, in whichever way. Even finding out that discrediting was happening was because I had support. People that came and said, "Hey, this is happening." So I looked at it as all of that as a support for me, in the sense that if they are coming and telling me that, outright support, so it just, you have to define support. So the definition of support I wasn't looking for, um, them I think the path of asking somebody to stop discrediting is one way to go, but I took a different path. What I was looking for is this: I wanted to see, I wanted to make sure the discrediting is not going to affect me, because I could start seeing results. Because you can go, when somebody is discrediting you, you can also start reacting to that. So I chose to just go, just my heads down and just go. And as if that noise didn't exist. So I kept seeing results. I think I wanted to try that first before going and looking for other support. So when I did that, I started to see that discrediting wasn't affecting my work, meaning people probably will hear things and then they're also figuring out for themselves, is this for real? So I have had a lot of support from, irrespective of this discrediting, I have had a lot of support from people wanting to work with me. So I approached it a different way. Does it work for everybody? I don't know. But it worked for me and I just went with that route.
So what you're saying is that what worked for you best is not to fight the situation, but rather make sure that the work that you're doing, that you're able to do your work, you're able to do your work with the high standards that you have, and that you don't let that little voice behind your ear tell you otherwise, that any of those discrediting is happening because you're not good enough. So it was important to you to not let the person and what they were doing behind your back get to you.
Absolutely. So that's why I asked the question, what are they doing? And I didn't ask, how could they do it? So I know what they are doing, and I only focused on how to minimize what that could do to me. So I had to work on that myself and say, hey, this is not going to stop me. And if one person's opinion doesn't define me, I am who I am, I'm going to do my thing.
I think that's a very important point and crucial point that you're making, that you're not um assessing who the person is, why are they doing this, to me. You're assessing whether any of what they are saying is applicable, and assessing yourself and what you're doing and making sure that your self-confidence doesn't get damaged by the other person.
Absolutely.
By the way, was this person a man or a woman, if you don't mind me asking?
Man.
I was asking because I have experience with a woman doing something very similar um at my previous workplace where I worked, and it was, I don't know, it probably hit a little harder just because it was another woman and there weren't that many of us. So in that environment, like, it was a very interesting environment from the perspective that it was international. Like, the company has a lot of offices everywhere, and I was in the Hungarian office. I was getting my salary from that legal entity, and I was working with people in Sweden. And eventually, at one point, I transitioned into a kind of an open source, OpenStack coordinator role. So I was working more with the leadership team and people in Sweden who were also the leadership team, and some people in Sweden who were also starting to work more in open source. So I did have a person who I was reporting to in Sweden, but that was not like the official reporting chain. So I almost kind of had two managers at the same time. And in this open source group within that big project, there was one other woman, and I was supporting the community that she was active in, but it was not the main community where I was involved. But I had the most open source experience in the group at that point. Transitioning into open source engagement, that was new to a lot of people. So from the start, what I was doing that was ruffling some feathers, especially on the leadership and standards side, where open source was not really part of the traditional workflows and way of working and all the things. So everything that I was advocating for meant a change to those people, and not everyone wants change. So they were resisting really hard. And then my manager, who I reported to in Hungary, at one point, he told me that the other woman is, by the way, telling all kinds of things to that manager in Sweden behind my back. And
Discrediting.
yeah, it's discrediting me. And it felt like that she was treating it as sort of a competition, and it was one or the other who makes it. That's what I think, because I went there to think about what motivates them to do this. Because it did help me to some extent to like treat it what it was. So as opposed to asking what I'm doing wrong and what's wrong with me, like why this is happening to me. Like besides looking into what I was doing and just making sure that I tidy everything up, and I always act professionally. I do my work well, and then everything else they can say whatever they want, because I know that what I do, that is solid. But I also was trying to understand a little bit their motivation, just to be able to put things into perspective. That did help me personally, but as you say, it may not always be the best way to go, because then you can also fall on the other side a little bit, and then start to try to find faults within yourself that are not there, in terms of what the other person is doing behind your back or directly to you.
You have to understand what they're doing, definitely, because otherwise you don't know how to even approach this, right? Yeah, definitely. And how did you, I mean, how did that resolve itself, if I may ask?
So eventually I actually left the company
Okay.
altogether, not because of that one particular conflict with that other woman, but like, I remember there was another person in the group, and we did have one or two one-on-one conversations, and I just felt like that I was treated a little bit like a young girl from Hungary who doesn't know how things work here and just like doesn't have a place here. All the little things just contributed,
It added up.
and an opportunity opened up which I actually really loved and I was super happy about, and the opportunity came up because of all the work I was actually doing in open source and in public, and it was recognized, and it was kind of just the right thing happening at the right time, and I just made my exit and I never regretted that move. And I would never encourage anyone to pack up right away and run. Um, but there's a point when leaving is the solution.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say, that's why I say you have to decide what works for you. Leaving is good if that's what, I mean, ultimately you have to look out for yourself. Can you, there is a lot of negativity whenever this kind of situation is happening. And you have to be, um, you have to take that negativity and choose not to react negatively. It takes a lot of courage and work on yourself to be able to do that. So at that point, and sometimes you reach a point where um, it's whatever you do, it doesn't matter. It's not working. So then at that point, we do have to go into a self-protection mode, which is leaving. And in your case, though, looks like it did work out, and then you went to a good place, meaning professionally, it was helped you.